Hello folks, Rick here. Wanted to do a quick review on this portable AC unit that I picked up from Amazon. It's a Whnter, and Whnter spelled W-H-Y-N-T-E-R, model ARC 14S. They also have a 14SH, which has a built-in heater in it. I didn't feel the need to have that. I have a heater underneath my, over there by my workbench that works fine, and if it gets real cold, I can turn on my propane heater. At any rate, I wanted to go through some of the features, the cost analysis, and some of the specs on power usage, and share that with you in case you guys are interested in a portable AC unit. It works great in the garage, but you can also use it, in a warm room that you have inside. Okay, so I had a day that was $90.95 for a stretch there, and I went to Amazon, picked this up, got here in a couple days. Took me 15 minutes to put it together. Let me quickly go through these tubes back here, and then I'll go through some of the functions. So when you get this unit, you're going to have to find a way to expel the air and also bring in fresh intake air. So you'll see here these two tubes that are 4.5 inches. I have these going out to this old doggy door here, and that accessory kit comes with the unit, and it's a window accessory kit. I don't have a window that slides up and down, so I just installed this on that plywood, hole sawed some 4.5 inch holes, and went ahead and installed it that way, and it seems to work fine. Let me just show you here. These things just pop off. I don't keep these things on all the time because I don't want flies and bugs getting in there. Okay, they just pop off, and then you just clip back on like that. Okay, so that's what those two tubes are. The unit is on casters. It rolls really nicely. Okay, you can move it around a little bit. See what else? Let's go through the panel. The panel has power, a mode switch, 3 different modes, fan, AC, and dehumidification. Okay, it's got a timer switch, so you can set it so that it cuts off in 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. Let's see what else. It's got a minus and plus for the temperature, and it also comes with a really nice remote. There's a remote, all the functions there. Okay, that works nice. It's got a nice, decent deflector up top here. Okay, if you can see that. All right, it stands about 35 inches. Again, it was $4.69 on Amazon. Not the cheapest one out there, but definitely one of the better reviewed ones. I am going to keep it. I am pleased with it. I'll share with you my experience on a 95-degree day. It was 95 outside, very humid, and it was about 82, 83 degrees in here, but it was a humidity that was just unbearable in here. It was miserable. I couldn't do any work in here. It was just, I was just sweating like a pig in heat. It was horrible. I'm in here either working on my my bench, my lure making, or I'm working on my boat, and it's just miserable here. So at 82 degrees in here, I turned this unit on, and I let it run for about 3 or 4 hours. When I came back in here, it had dropped to only about 77. Now, I was hoping it was going to get down to 75, 74, but what I was surprised at was the level of humidity that dropped. And it made it very bearable, very easy to work in here at 77 in low humidity. So that prompted me to start using this unit in the dehumidification mode. We'll talk about that in a minute. So at any rate, when I put this together, now up here I have this analog temperature up there, thermometer, which doesn't work very good. But what I did do is I went ahead and put that remote thermostat up there, and I have it's a digital one, and it allows me to get a more accurate reading, and I have a display inside the house that tells me what the temperature here, so I can gauge how this unit is working. Okay, so since it did lower the humidity quite a bit, I decided on the second and third day, and it wasn't that hot out, it had actually gotten more seasonable outside. I put this in dehumidification mode, and that seems to work very well. Now, in dehumidification mode, according to the manufacturer and the manual, when you have it in that mode, you don't have to use these tubes. You don't have to have these connected. You don't have to expel the air out. If you do decide to keep those tubes connected to the outside, particularly the exhaust one. The benefit of doing that is, one, it actually cools the room down, and it also expels that warm air and that moisture out quicker, and it doesn't allow you to fill up an internal reservoir in there. Because if you have a very, very humid room and you either don't use those tubes to expel out and you decide to keep them in, that reservoir can fill up fairly quickly and the unit will power off if it's filled, and a red light will blink. Now, there is a 5/8 inch outside diameter port on the back side of this unit where you can hook up a tube and run that tube to a drain like what I have here, or outside. So you do have that benefit, and I may look into that. So anyways, guys, that's it. Those are the functions. Let's talk about some numbers here. Now, I don't know if you just noticed there, but I had this in dehumidification mode, and it still seems to use a compressor because I can hear it kick on and off. And when I go over the numbers, I'll explain what that does to the amps, the watts, and how much it costs me when that's running. But my friend Dale, who's in the HVAC business, I'm going to ask him and ask him exactly what's going on and what the differences are when you're running in this dehumidification versus the AC mode. Okay, I have a kilowatt meter over here, and I'm not going to go through all the screens here because, number one, you can't see it, and I'll just be fumbling through it. But let me just quickly read to you some of the specs on this. Back up over here. So in AC mode, when this is running in air conditioning mode, okay, it's running 10.7 to 11.13 amps. And that equates to about just under 1,200 to about 1,205 watts. Okay, that's not cheap. Okay, that's 1,200 watts can be costly. Now, I don't know if you heard that. You heard that compressor kick on. I don't know if the mic picked it up. You can hear it gets a little bit louder. We'll go into that in a second. All right, in AC mode, 1,200 watts. Yes, no surprise there. It's going to cost you to run this. It's not cheap. Okay. In dehumidification mode, when you have this set on dehumidification, and again, the reason why I like running it in that mode is because I noticed when I had it in AC mode, it was the humidity that was being taken out that made it comfortable. So I decided to run this on days 2 and 3 in just that mode. Not all day, just around 4 o'clock I'll turn it on because I'm going to come out here and do some work. In dehumidification mode, when it's running at, I call it normal dehumidification mode, okay, if you will, it's only using 0.45 amps, which is less than half of an amp, which translates to about 55 watts. Very cost efficient to run it that way. However, in dehumidification mode, like I just alluded to earlier, you can hear the compressor kind of kicking on, and it'll kick on like it's running in AC. And when it does that, it is running actually 10.4 to 10.8 amps, or 1,150 to 1,170 watts, almost as much as the AC unit is running. Now, with this running at that level, I can actually feel cool air out there. So it is actually expelling cool air, so that is also cooling the room in that mode. And again, I'd have to defer this to my friend Dale, who's my only HVAC resource. So you can see over here on my kilowatt meter that it's actually drawing 10.8 amps right now in dehumidification mode, whereas before it was running at 0.45 amps, much less in cost, okay? Now, I've been running this for about 73 hours, and my total cost has been $1.33. Now, that was one day of about 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours of air conditioning. Days 2 and 3 was primarily in dehumidification mode, okay? And it's cost me a grand total of $1.33. That translates to an annual cost of $157, a monthly cost of just under $13, weekly $3, and daily 43 cents. All right, the 43 cents doesn't sound bad, but it can add up. Now, that's all relative because it all depends on how long you're running it. What I suggest anyone do when they have a unit like this and they're kind of worried about cost is you get something like this, reset it down to 0, run it, get a benchmark for it, you know, plug in what your, you know, utility provider charges you. Usually it's between 10, 11, 11.5 cents a kilowatt. Plug that in there, get a benchmark, find out what this thing will cost you when you run it for a full day or a full 8-hour shift or however many hours you think you're going to work here in the garage, and that way you can get an analysis of what it's going to cost you. Okay, so that's the cost of it. Those are the specs on the wattage and amperage of both AC and dehumidification. I want to quickly kind of go through why dehumidification is important, particularly if you have, you know, electronics like this boat does, you have expensive gear, or you just don't want to work in humidity. Even when it's not that humid, and I pulled this boat in after it's been soaked in the rain like I did a couple days ago, and this boat is pulled in, I close the garage doors, it sits in here for 12 hours and it's miserable in here because this boat is like a sponge, like a wet sponge, right? So what I do is I open up all my lids, all my compartments, and I know some people even, they'll put a fan up here in the ceiling and they'll blow that fan down into the boat, and that is a real good way to get air circulating and get rid of some of that moisture, because you certainly don't want to have moisture built up, or I don't want to have moisture built up and create mildew on my rod lockers and my lids, in my drain areas, on my equipment. But I chose not to put a fan up there because this unit here is doing a pretty good job. Let's see, I think that's it. I went through some of the functions already, power, the modes. It's on casters here. It's about 35 inches tall. I got it on Amazon for $4.69, and I give it a thumbs up. Thanks, guys.